Hello, people of Earth. It is I, Chris. Sorry I'm a minute or two late. I had some technical snafus in the sense that I had to make myself coffee. Hope everyone is great. Let's see. Okay, so we are live. It is Friday. It is March the 7th. Welcome to my weekly, every Friday live stream. I do this every Friday. I make videos the rest of the week. Subscribe to my channel. Simple. If you want more content from me, go to my Substack, chriscillizza.substack.com, or just search my last name in Substack. It will come up and check it out. So there's a ton of questions already in here. So I want to get to more, as many as I can. So I'm going to get started really fast. But the first thing I want to do is say, if you're new to this chat, welcome. Thank you for coming. My motto, and I'm getting it out of the way fast, and I won't say it again, calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing, independent, transparent, authentic, honest, all those things. So like this video, subscribe to my channel, like my videos, do it for the algorithm, do it for me, do it for America. As always, I'll answer as many questions as I can in the time frame, which is about usually an hour we go. And if you want to donate to me via the super chat option here, I will bump your question up to the top and make sure it gets answered, because look, folks, this is not a nonprofit. I need to make money in order to keep doing this. So if you want to support independent journalism, it's just me in this office, people. That's it. No corporate overlords. No one tell me what to do. Speaking without fear or favor. Then hit that super chat button. All right, here we go. Let's get ready to rumble. Human NC. Hey, Chris, thanks for doing this. No problem. Could you explain why Democrats won't just change their position on transgender policies to win in 2026? Great question. Because the base of their party, at least a part of the base of their party, very much believes in their policies on trans rights. So I think there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party, and particularly the base, who see, like, even saying trans girls can't play girls sports as a sort of an incursion on a person's right to be who they believe themselves to be, if that makes sense. So there is definitely an element within the party, the base of the party, that doesn't want that. Now, it takes some courage if you're a politician to stand up to the base of your party. I mean, like we've seen over and over again. You think everybody in the Republican Party right now, elected officials, think Donald Trump is amazing? They do not. But they sort of go along because they're afraid of their base. Well, same thing's happening in the Democratic Party. So Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, I wrote about this on my Substack, took a step out and said, no, I think it's a fairness issue and transgender girls should not be playing in girls and women's sports. That's a step. Now let's see what the reaction to it is. But look, Democrats will not, the Democratic brand is toxic in a lot of the country for several reasons. But one of the big reasons is people think that Democrats are out of step with them culturally. And the trans stuff is part of that cultural out of stepness. So I think that's sort of what's going on. It's less easy than you might think it is. Let's see. Patrick Murray. Hey, Chris, not sure how much you know about Canadian politics, but do you think Trudeau's party turned on him the same way they turned on Biden, simply because of approval ratings or to pass the torch? So, I mean, I know some. What I would say is Trudeau has been the prime minister for 9 or 10 years. That's a long time. In this political environment where incumbency is not a great thing, that's a long time to be in power. People get sick of you. They just do. So I think it's more he needs to pass the torch. They're tied together, right? His approval rating goes down because people want new faces. And so I think they're sort of the same thing. I will say Trump's involvement in calling Canada the 51st state and stuff has helped Trudeau's party immeasurably. I actually think it's possible that they could hold on to power. Not Trudeau, because I know he's already said he's leaving, but they could hold on to power when we thought the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre was definitely going to come in and be the next prime minister. Now it feels like a little much more up in the air. Travis Lindsay, set the record straight. Did you criticize Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene when they yelled at Biden like you did Al Green? Yes, 100%. It was ridiculous. Performative grandstanding politics. You should not, in a State of the Union speech, yell liar like Marjorie Taylor Greene did at the President of the United States. It's disrespectful, number one. And number two, Biden won that election. He won the right constitutionally to address Congress and fill them in on the State of the Union. So you getting up and disrupting it, it's not right. Same thing with Al Green. You can hate Donald Trump. That's fine. You can disagree with everything he says or does. But Donald Trump won the election fair and square. So, yes, of course I talked about it. Go back. Just search Chris Cillizza and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Trust me, you will find content. Mr. Wolf, strange how some people didn't clap for the boy with great brain cancer in the State of the Union. Really makes you wonder why. Stupid. Really dumb. Like, look, I understand why Democrats do not like Donald Trump. I understand why some of them hate him. I understand that many of them genuinely believe he is a threat to democracy and wants to be an authoritarian. All of that can exist while also acknowledging that a 13-year-old kid battling brain cancer who Trump made an honorary Secret Service member agent is a sweet, nice thing. So I was doing this live stream on Tuesday night, and I was like, oh, that's a sweet moment. And somebody in the comments was like, stop fawning over Trump. Dude, I'm not fawning over Trump. I'm saying it's a nice moment. A kid who's struggling with brain cancer gets to have a smile and be excited. Did Trump do it for political theater? Of course he did. Is he trafficking in that family struggle? Of course he is. Guess who else does that? Every president since Reagan who's given a State of the Union speech. They all have the guests in the gallery where it's like, look at this poor person's story. Don't you feel terrible for them? I'm looking out for them. They all do this. This idea that it's just Trump is ridiculous. Matthew White, why does Hollywood lean so much in one direction politically? Wouldn't it make more business sense to stay neutral? So, Matthew, I think that's a function of the kind of person who goes into the dramatic arts tends to be a little bit more on the liberal side. I don't think the big studio heads are like all of them are giant liberals. But yes, I actually think you'll see a little movement back culturally, maybe. People are not going to the movies anymore, right? That's a big problem. So they have to kind of figure that out. But so I think it's more the kind of people who gravitate toward it than the industry itself. I hope that makes sense. Cillizza fan. I'm a fan. Yes, it says it right there. But why did you copy Jon Stewart's professional wrestling analogy yesterday on YouTube without giving him any credit? I hadn't seen, somebody else sent me this. I had written a piece on this earlier in the week. I hadn't seen and still haven't seen Jon Stewart's thing. I guess you could not believe me, but I hadn't seen, I guess there was, he did mention John Cena and kind of heels and wrestling. But one thing I'll say is like, I've been writing about pro wrestling and politics for a really long time. I did not like just happen upon this because a thing I didn't see that Jon Stewart did was similar. Smart people sometimes, I'm including myself in smart people. People sometimes come to similar conclusions. And the John Cena thing was a big deal. You have my word. I would not copy someone's idea without giving them credit. I never have. I never will. I just didn't see it. We kind of arrived at a similar conclusion. I guess I still haven't seen it, but I guess we arrived at a similar conclusion, but I didn't see it. So thank you for still being a fan. And thank you for asking the question, because I feel bad. I feel bad if people think I did that. That is not what I do. Julio J. Hey, Chris, can you give a navigating independent journalism for dummies overview? I.e., how do I systematically identify good sources beyond just saying they agree with my views, so they must be good? It's hard. So I've written and talked about media diet a bunch. And I always say this. Let's just talk about diet. If all you eat was McDonald's hamburgers, they are delicious. But if that's all you eat, you're not going to be healthy, right? You can have a McDonald's hamburger from time to time, but you also need to eat greens and yogurt and protein, and right? You have to have a fully rounded diet in order to give yourself the best chance of being healthy. I think the media diet should work the same way. Yes, you can read and consume and eat, figuratively, the content that appeals to you and says like, I'm right, that, you know, that your ideas are right. But if that's all you consume, you're not going to be healthy. You can't just read, watch, listen to, support people who support your point of view all the time. I know, look, it's the same reason that if I could eat Chick-fil-A every single day, I would, and have the peach shake afterwards. It's delicious, but I'd weigh 900 pounds. So you can't do that. And by the same token, you can't just listen to lefty anti-Trump stuff or righty pro-Trump stuff all the time. You need a well-rounded media diet, right? You need to consume some of this over here, some of that over here, some in the middle. How do I do that? I try to look for voices that I think are smart who disagree with me at times. So Jim Garrity, one example, Jim Garrity in the National Review. He's probably a little bit more conservative on most things than I am, but I think he's really smart. And so I am drawn to him because I like to see, okay, well, I actually hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. Or oh, I still disagree, but I'm glad that he made that point. I have a list. If you search my name in media diet and Substack, you will get a list of people I follow from the center, right, and left. And maybe that would be helpful. It is challenging. It's just like a regular diet. It's easier to eat Chipotle every day. But if you eat Chipotle every day, you're not going to be healthy. You got to kind of force yourself out of your comfort zone. Barry Riley. Barry, thank you so much for the donation. Barry says, love your channel. No question this week. I watched you from the beginning because you are not biased. Thank Barry. Stay strong. That is awesome. I very much appreciate that. That is really, really kind. I need more people like Barry who say, you know what? I don't agree with Chris every second, but that's the point. I always say, if you agreed with me every second, I'd be trying to sell you something, right? If you agree with someone all the time who's making content every single day about politics, they're selling you something and you're probably buying it. Just be a smart consumer. Sam's still a Cillizza fan. Okay. Hi, Chris. Who in Trump's cabinet has the best chance of lasting all 4 years, and who will go the way of Rex Tillerson, Tom Price? Will Trump's cabinet be more stable this time? So, Sam, I do not think it will be more stable because Donald Trump is not that guy, right? I mean, he has whims and, people fall in and out of his good graces all the time. The best chance of staying is if you're in a low profile role, right? So like, who's the small business administrator? I think it's Kelly Loeffler, the former Georgia senator. I guess I could see her lasting the whole time. But if you're like Marco Rubio, I think it's unlikely you last the whole time. If you're Pam Bondi, even, I think it's unlikely you last the whole time. Now, the one thing I would say is Trump did pick people he wanted more this time, as opposed to just people that other Republicans told him to pick, like he did the first time around. So I think there'll be a little longer shelf life on the front end, but he always gets sick of people, right? I mean, it's like the most predictable. The most predictable thing ever is his unpredictability. And so like he always gets sick of people. He always turns on people. I can't imagine that's going to change. But the lower profile you are in the cabinet in terms of the job, the better chance you have of keeping your head down and surviving. Ayush Ariel, in the second term, I believe there's going to be a group photo of Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, and President Xi, like there was of Churchill, Stalin, and FDR after World War II. Not saying both are equal, but just saying your thoughts. So Kim Jong-un, Putin, Trump, and Xi. He would probably, I mean, honestly, he would be drawn to that sort of thing because it would be like a great men of history in his mind. Hear me, in his mind, it would be like a great men of history thing. He wants to be consequential. He wants to matter. That is essential to understanding Donald Trump. So yes, he would be like, I created the greatest deal ever. We've got China and North Korea. And like, yes, I could see that. I mean, the optics of standing with three authoritarian dictators, or at least authoritarian leaning folks, is not great, but I'm not sure that would totally bother him. XPFC Wintergreen V2O, umpires should call balls and strikes, but not compliment pitches. So I think that's fair. As I said, calling balls and strikes, no matter who's up at the plate, but I don't really compliment what I think a lot of people heard when I was talking about Donald Trump's speech earlier in the week, which a lot of liberals didn't like, that I thought it was effective, was I used the word effective as a piece of political rhetoric. I'm not on good or bad. Like it was a good speech because I liked what was in it. It was a bad speech because I didn't like what was in it. It's much more, it was good because it was effective in doing the things he tried to set out to do. So I'm not really complimenting him. But I will say, like, I thought Alyssa Slotkin's speech was good in that the goal has to be for Democrats to rebrand themselves, right? And they have to find ways to make it not look too coastal, make it not look too liberal, make it not look too woke. And Alyssa Slotkin did a good job. I'm not rooting for Alyssa Slotkin, but in terms of what I think Democrats need to do, or what I thought Donald Trump needed to do, if they accomplish those things, I'm going to say I think it was an effective use of their time and their platform. But thank you for the thought. Adrian Weber. Adrian, thank you for your donation. Adrian says, hey, Chris, congratulations on the News Nation collab. Also, my fiance's visa was approved this week. Congratulations on the visa. Congratulations on your impending nuptials. And yes, for people who don't know, I signed a contributor deal this week with News Nation. News Nation, if you don't know it, it used to be WGN. It is a national cable network. They do, I think, they do the best job of the cable TV networks out there of shooting it straight down the middle, which is what I'm trying to do. They've got people from Chris Cuomo, my friend and former CNN colleague. I was going to say my former friend, but we're still friends. They've got Leland Vittert, who came from Fox News. They've got Elizabeth Vargas, who came from ABC. So they've got a lot of interesting voices there, and I like doing it. I've been doing those shows for a while, and they said, hey, let's formalize this. And I said, you bet, because I think it fits with who I am and what I want to do. So thank you for the congratulations. Vladimir, what could Democrats say to win back some rural votes in 2028, if that's even possible? I think it is possible for sure, but they're going to have to rebrand. So I think the first step has to be move more moderate on culture stuff. They are losing the culture wars right now. They are on the wrong side of some 80-20 issues, trans stuff being one, sort of how you handle immigration being another. People think they're too loose on that. The wokeness, school stuff, like what we teach kids, all that stuff they're on the wrong side of in terms of the public opinion. So they have to kind of move in that direction. I think that smart people in the party know that. I think it's harder than you might think because the base of the party does not want to do that. But I think that, like, Gavin Newsom is a good example. He's trying to sort of gradually move them away from into a more moderate cultural position. So I think that's step one. And I think that has to happen between now and 2026. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It is possible if Democrats did nothing. It might even be probable. If Democrats do nothing message-wise between now and 2026, and Donald Trump's approval rating is like 38-39% in November 2026, they'll take back the House. They probably won't take back the Senate, but they'll have a good election. But that does not solve their brand problem going into 2028. So that's the key. Yes, they can win in a midterm with an unpopular president who is not in their party. The question is, can you win a general election, presidential election? Matthew McKeown. Matthew, thank you for your donation. Very much appreciated. Matthew says, hey, Chris, love your work. What's the best opposition response to previous State of the Union speeches, and why are so many disappointing? So there have not been a lot of good ones. Off the top of my head, and these are mostly Republican ones because they're more recent because Biden was president, but Katie Britt's speech was not good. The Alabama senator, very weird tone, very weird voice. Marco Rubio's response speech where he chugs the water. Do you remember that one? Also not great. Make sure you've got water at the podium and drink from it. Bobby Jindal, where he walks down the steps of the Louisiana governor's mansion, weird. I thought Bob McDonnell back in the day, the former governor of Virginia, did a pretty good job. I thought Slotkin was pretty good. I mean, in a lot of ways, the best compliment I can pay to a response speech is people forget about it quickly and they don't mock you for it. Here's why it's hard. The president of the United States has the bully pulpit, right? He's in front of Congress. He's speaking for, in Trump's case, 100 minutes. And then they're like, and now let's cut to this other person. And it's like a person like in some background like this. And they're like, thank you for your time. And most people haven't heard of that person. And it's late on the East Coast. Now, it's not usually as late as it was for Alyssa Slotkin. It was like 11:20. But it's just it's like a mismatch in terms of gravitas. So it's hard to do well. And you mostly want to be forgotten. I actually thought Slotkin deserves credit because she was mostly forgotten. Let's see. Nostalgic American. Are your social circles concerned about a looming recession at all, Chris? So look, I'll pull back the curtain. You want to know what my social circles are? People I talk to at the sidelines of my kids' practices and games. So we mostly talk about soccer or baseball or basketball or whatever. I'm not at the Sally Quinn salon dinner at her house. So my social circle is very much like, where do my kids want to go? No, we don't really have those conversations. I can't say whether people are or not concerned about it, but I don't really have those conversations. Yeah. George Wilkerson. George, thank you so much. Let's see. George says, for your donation, very kind. Hey, Chris, I'll be in DC next month for the AANA conference at Capitol Hill and saw you're speaking on April 27th. I am. January, February, March. Yes, April 27th. Looking forward to see your speech and hope to meet you. George, make sure you come up either before or probably after the speech and introduce yourself. I do a bunch of speaking gigs. If ever you're part of a trade association or any other group that needs a little political briefing, I'm your guy, cillizzac@gmail.com. But I always love doing those, George. So come up afterward, absolutely, and make sure you say hi. And thank you for your donation. It's very much appreciated. Dan W., what do you think Trump's end goal is with tariffs? He's transactional and obviously wants concessions, but I don't know his end goal, or does he not have one? Okay, let me say a few things about tariffs. Number one, I think that Donald Trump actually does believe in them. I think he actually thinks it is the right thing to do. It will work. It will generate revenue for the government from imports, and it will put him in a strong negotiating position. The problem he has, of course, is most economists, which Donald Trump is not, do not agree with that, right? They think that tariffs start trade wars, and trade wars are bad for both sides. He backed off, if you noticed, on Thursday. He backed off from the Canada and Mexico tariffs for another month. And I think that's largely to do with the fact that the stock market is sliding, and he cares deeply about the stock market. I made a video on my Substack this morning about Trump's obsession with the stock market and how it drives his decision-making. So the question, I think, for him is he going to just plow through and say, we're doing this no matter what, and there's going to be some negative consequences, and I'm okay with that? Or does he find a way to snake out of it and walk away from tariffs? I tend to think the former, only because I think he actually does believe in tariffs and thinks they will work, but we'll see. As for his end game, I don't know that I think he's a tactical guy, not a strategic guy. So he makes a bunch of move here, move here, move here, move here. And I don't think that he's solving for way down there off camera. I think he's kind of solving for right in front of his face. Tabby D. Hey, Chris, from California here. Hey, California. Gavin Newsom seems to be making his move to the center and will soon be the new leader of the Democrats. Kamala to run for governor. Is that how you see it? So I've said before, I'll say it now. Kamala Harris should run for governor of California. She should put aside running in 2028. I think she needs to rehab her political brand. She needs to get a few wins under her belt. Being in charge of California is a hugely high profile role, particularly if you're for Democrats. And I think she would probably win that race relatively easily. Newsom, he is running. I mean, I've said this, he's running, but barring some sort of something way out of left field, he is running for president. He starts a podcast in which he says, I'm going to talk to people with whom I disagree. Why would you do that if you weren't interested in trying to move to the middle? He says on Thursday, on the first episode of the podcast, I disagree with how Kamala Harris handled the transgender issue. These are things that you do if you, number one, are running for president, and number two, believe your party brand is too liberal and too woke. That is the right diagnosis, candidly, that Newsom is arriving at. I think it's a smart gamble he's making. The question that I have is, the thing he can't change is he's from California, and he was the mayor of San Francisco before he was the governor of California. And in 2024, Kamala Harris was clearly hurt from the fact that she was associated with San Francisco and California, because she basically said, Trump basically said of her, she's a communist, California communist, liberal, woke. And even though she didn't talk that much about those things during the campaign, it still stuck. I wonder if that would be the case with Newsom too. I mentioned this a lot, but I'm going to mention again. There's a famous line in Annie Hall, one of my favorite movies, from Woody Allen, where he says, the rest of the country looks like New York, like we're all homosexual pornographers. I think sometimes that's how people who don't live in California view California. And that's obviously a problem for Gavin. Let's see. Jorge Caceres. Jorge, thank you so much for the donation. As a person on SSDI with cancer and a broken spine, how worried should I be? Give it to me straight. Would the GOP really mess with earned benefits? I don't think so, Jorge. I think Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid are going to be untouchable. Now, I will say that we are not going to seriously address our deficit and debt problems unless we deal with those entitlements. But I don't think Donald Trump's going to do that. I just don't see it. He likes to do things that are popular. Those things are not popular. Those things would make him very unpopular with many of the people who voted for him. And I don't see him doing it. I mean, I don't know. With him, again, unpredictable. But if I had to guess, I'd say no. And Jorge, thank you for your donation. And I hope you're hanging in there. Franz George Leopold Pagel, or Pagel. Great name. It's almost 7 p.m. at this place. So good evening. Good evening, sir. Chris, could you name a few smart non-Trumpy Republicans? Also, what is your take on the coalition talks in Germany and Austria? Franz, I don't know enough. Franz George, I don't know enough about the coalition talks in Germany and Austria. So let me put that aside. I'll try to learn. It's hard for me enough to keep up with American politics sometimes. A few smart non-Trumpy Republicans. First of all of them are kind of enthralled to him at this point, to be honest. The people who were willing to speak out against him have largely been eliminated within the party. So like, Mitt Romney is not in office anymore. Liz Cheney is not in office anymore. Jeff Flake, the senator from Arizona, is not in office anymore. Adam Kinzinger is not in office anymore. So non-Trumpy doesn't really exist. People who are not totally in the Trump world, Todd Young of Indiana, senator, I think he's interesting. John Curtis of Utah, senator, he's interesting. Who else is? Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, I think is an interesting sort of voice there. The key to me is like there are anti-Trump Republicans, most of whom aren't in office anymore. There are a huge amount of pro-Trump Republicans, and then they're kind of the people in between. The people in between are the people I just named, and those are the voices that I find interesting. Dr. Banana. Great name, by the way. I was recently thinking about Huey Long. Would you consider doing a video about him? Seems strangely relevant considering the current president. So for people who don't know, Huey Long was the governor and I think a senator from Louisiana. The book, All the King's Men, which is my favorite book of political fiction, maybe fiction, period, ever written, is based loosely on Huey Long. Fascinating character. Yes, I would love to do that. The Good Doctor, I am thinking about doing some deep historical dives on some political figures, and that would fit in with that. So that's definitely a possibility. Harsh Bade. Hey, Harsh, thank you for your donation. Dems are best advised to focus on fighting Elon Musk. He's going to be a big winner for them in 2016 and 2026 and 2028. Trump crazy without the charisma and charm. I'm interested on that, Harsh. I don't know. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm also not saying I agree. Like, I don't know how much longer Elon's going to be around. Like, is he around a year from now, active in the government? I don't know. I'm not saying he isn't. I just don't know the answer. So Elon is not particularly popular. There's no question about that. And I think he'll grow less popular as these cuts start to have like real world impacts. I think right now it's kind of this esoteric conversation about, we're getting rid of people in government, and everyone's like, that's fine. But when it's actually like impacts your life, like you're a vet and you call a hotline to try to figure out, where your benefits are, and nobody picks up the phone, I think it starts to be more problematic. The question for me is, how long does Elon stay in this central role? If he is in this central role throughout the Trump administration, I guess I probably agree with you. If he's not, I'm not sure how big an issue is. Thelma Silvestro. Thelma, thank you for that incredible generosity. I very much appreciate it. Thelma says, and by the way, folks, when you're donating, just to be clear, if you're donating just to me. There's no all proceeds go to my journalism. There's no other thing out there that's siphoning money off. If you donate to me, it helps me do this stuff, to write on Substack, to make videos here, to do speech. Like, it's all in support of this journalism. So thank you. If you are investing in this, you're investing in me. You're not investing in some big unnamed company. You're investing in me. So Thelma, thank you. Thelma says, Trump's first administration had high turnover. Do you have any thoughts about who might be the first person to leave the current administration? So Thelma, I kind of answered this on the cabinet level before. The most likely people to leave are always the people in the highest profile roles, generally speaking. So that's Chief of Staff, Secretary of State, Attorney General, Secretary of Defense. I could see Hegseth, if something else came up, some other reporting came up about him, maybe. Rubio is going to be in a tough spot because Trump is trying to remake the world. And I don't know that Rubio agrees with everything he's doing, but Rubio is in a tough spot. I think Susie Wiles, the Chief of Staff, will hang around for a while. And I think Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, will hang around for a while. The other option of people leaving is there's just some scandal that makes it, they can't keep the job. That's always sort of a wild card possibility. But if you're looking for most likely, it's those people I just named. Patrick Murray says, woo, what up, Chris? What up, dog? Hold on. I just got screwed all my scrolling up. Pocket Watch. Thank you, Pocket, for the donation. Pocket Watch says, thanks for doing these. Always. Thank you for sending me Almanacs of American Politics, my friend. Very, very much appreciated. Patrick Murray. Woo, what up, Chris? What up, dog? Dr. Always First, what do you make of Gavin Newsom's very buddy appearance on Charlie Kirk's show and his pivot on trans sports issues and saying his son loves Charlie? Very bizarre interview. I believe that was an interview for Gavin Newsom's podcast, not Charlie Kirk's show. I think it was for Gavin Newsom's podcast. And remember, the express reason or the express theory of Gavin Newsom's podcast is he's going to talk to people he disagrees with. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised in that way. Hombre de Oro. Hello, Chris. How are you doing? I'm going to be honest. this week has been a lot. My mom had foot surgery. She's fine. My younger son just got diagnosed with the flu. He's fine, but not feeling well. Got a lot going on, people. We had Trump Tuesday night, signed the News Nation deal. I mean, mostly good, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a little stressed out. So I'm doing fine, doing great, but I'm a little stressed out. So stick with me and thank you for your support. Just giving you the honest take. I know people like to say like, everything's great, everything's amazing, I'm doing amazing, but like some days are harder than others. Today's a tough day, busy day. Kornheiser 10, Chris, you're always referring to Maryland Governor Wes Moore as a presidential potential in 2028, but maybe you haven't seen reports. Maryland is now in a world of financial hurt. Do you think Hogan could beat him in 26? He can run. I have seen Maryland's financial situation is not great, which means that Wes Moore is going to have to own some of these cuts that are going to be made, and that never makes you popular. We'll see. Let's see how it pans out. There's no question. Like, I think Wes Moore has to be considered a favorite to get reelected in 2026 in a state like Maryland, just because it's overwhelmingly Democratic. Could Larry Hogan, the former two-term governor, run? Yes. Could he have a better chance than he did when he ran for the Senate in 2024? Yes, because you always have a better chance in a state election than a federal election in a state where your party is not popular. It's just easier to be your own person. When you run for federal office, you got to own like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Nancy Pelosi, and Hakeem Jeffries, and on the Republican side, Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene. As a state official, you can be like, I don't care about any of those people. They don't impact how I do my job. So I think he has a chance, but I still would bet on Moore. And if Moore does win and the stuff he does financially is seen as a neutral or positive, which might be hard, I think he does run. Marquis Del Toro. Marquis, thank you so much for the donation. Marquis says, does the left need to work on its theatrics? Paddles and singing don't work. They look like weak losers. Ours are the Rock D's are Ricky Mavia. I get your reference. I get it's a good, Republicans are The Rock. The Democrats are Ricky Mavia. So that was the Rock before he became The Rock, for people who don't know. Yes. I think that Democrats need to be smarter about the fights they pick. I've said this before. Al Green grandstanding, and to be clear, that's what was happening. He was grandstanding, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene did it too, so did Lauren Boebert. Both sides do it, but he was grandstanding. Is not helpful. The liberal base can cheer it. It doesn't do them any good. The singing, the paddles, again, the liberal base loves that stuff. The liberal base is not big enough. I'm talking right into the microphone so everyone hears me. The liberal base is not big enough to elect a Democrat president in 2028. Just isn't. The Republican base isn't big enough to elect a Republican president in 2028 either. Donald Trump won over some people in the middle. That's how he won. So to me, performative stuff like that doesn't work. You need to do performative stuff that reinforces that changes the way people see your brand, as opposed to reinforces the thing they don't like about your brand. And Al Green reinforced the thing people don't like about their brand. Let's see. La Robot, speaking of Huey Long, we need a left-wing economic, but someone who is either centrist or radical centrist on cultural issues, or just stays out of social politics. So La Robot, I think that's smart. I think you want an economic populist and a cultural moderate. If I was a Democrat, that's what I would go for. Economic populism, the elites have too much power. They are taking things from us. We need to empower the little guy, but culturally more moderate so that you don't get cast as like some insane woke liberal. Would be my take. Brendan Fleming. Brendan, thank you as always for your kind donations. Very much appreciated. Brendan says, thanks for your excellent coverage, Chris. No problem. There's some buzz around Tim Walz running in 2028. How would you rank him, and who are your favorite Dem picks in 2028? Not Tim Walz. No way, man. Look, I've said this before. I got a lot of, I won't say what I got, feedback for saying that I thought Tim Walz was a total dud as a VP pick. I just don't think he did anything. There was like some initial excitement, but I don't think he helped much. I thought he was way less than advertised. So Tim Walz, I saw, he said, I forget where it was, but I saw he said in an interview, like, well, if that's what the country wants, then I'll consider running. The country does not want that. Democrats should not want that guy to run. I do not think he did a good job as a VP. My favorite VP picks, presidential for 2028, people I would keep an eye on. I mean, it's a lot of the obvious names. Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, Newsom in California. Dark horse, but one I always mention because I think he's really talented, is Raphael Warnock, the senator from Georgia. Keep an eye on him. Those are the ones. There's a million more. I think it'll be a hugely crowded field. And I do think someone like Mark Cuban or The Rock or someone like that, a celebrity, may well run. So keep an eye there. But, Harsh Bade. Harsh, thank you again for your donation. Harsh says, JD Vance big head memes are hilarious. You have to say please and thank you, Mr. Zawinski. Yes, they are. They are. John David Vance. RBH 2021. RBH, thank you for your donation. So for clarity going forward, in your opinion, what should the Democratic policy and messaging be regarding the transgender issue? Okay. I think you don't talk hell. Okay. Two things. First, I think you say, look, we're going to take a common sense approach to this. Transgender girls should not be biological men who are transitioning or have transitioned cannot play in girls or women's sports at the high school or college level. It's a 90-10 issue. You just that does not mean that you don't respect trans rights, and you can say that, but you just can't be on the wrong side of that issue. You just can't. And it's not affecting enough people for it to be worth the fight. So that's number one. Number two, you talk as a little bit about it as possible. Trans stuff is not a winner. Again, trans people are not 50% of the population. You should not spend 50% of your time talking about them. That's a loser politically. And again, people say, well, what about what's right? Look, political parties are about winning power. You can do what you want when you win. You can't do what you want if you lose. So the most important calculation has to be, does this help us win? I know that's sort of brass tacks a little bit. People don't like that, but I do think that's reality. DJ Sumisu, is this the most oxygen Canada has ever taken up in DC? Yes, I cannot remember a time when we've talked this much about Canada ever before. Canada is having a moment. Cornizer 10, Chris, I can't find it on eBay. So do you know the current value of my signed copy of the Gospel According to the Fix? You mean this book? I have like 30 copies of it back there. This is the first book I wrote when I was at the Washington Post. It's called The Gospel According to the Fix, an insider's guide to a less than holy world of politics. It's basically a collection of columns and thoughts. I wrote it pretty fast, like in 2 months. A signed copy. Here's the thing. The question is like, it's hard to assign a currency value to something that valuable, right? It's more about sort of owning a piece of history, I think. Let's see. BK 739. Pretty sure you are on video criticizing MTG and Boebert. I definitely am on video criticizing MTG and Boebert when they yelled at Biden. It was dumb in the same way that the Al Green thing was dumb. Shabbat Springfield. Also, what's with the 50K video? Soon we'll need a 100K one. I know we're growing. Got to keep growing faster. I will say, lost some subscribers when I said that Donald Trump gave a good speech. That's okay. Again, if your bar for subscribing to this or anything else that I do is you must agree with me 100% of the time, do not subscribe, because you shouldn't agree with me or anyone 100% of the time. Again, if you agree with someone 100% of the time, they are trying to sell you something. But yes, we're marching ever forward. Thank you. Mista, I think the kid deserved better than to be a pawn. It was awkward. So yes, they were talking about the 13-year-old kid with brain cancer who Trump made a honorary Secret Service agent. Yes, he was a political pawn. I get that. At the same time, he seemed genuinely excited and thrilled to be there, to become an honorary member. If you can bring a little happiness there, like, I get your point. I kind of look at it cynically. Whenever they cite these guests in the audience, it always bothers me because I feel like they're kind of grief harvesting. Like, look at this poor person, but it makes me look good. So we're going to cite their terrible tragedy in front of the national audience. But if it brings that person relief, happiness, even for a minute, I think it's worth it. So, I take your point. Let's see. James Walker says, shout out to the peach milkshake. I mean, let's be honest. And I am back. Well, that was awkward. Hold on. I'm trying to switch cameras. I have no idea why this keeps, but I keep losing. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can switch cameras very quickly here. I keep losing the now, you know what? We're gonna move over here. We're gonna move over to the old I don't know why, but it keeps happening that my my stream collapses halfway through, which is very weird because everything is totally fine. I'm on the internets. Everything is connected. Everything appears to be working, and then it drops. But here we are. We're back. Sorry about that, folks. I hope it wasn't too big a disruption. Rusty, how do both parties get past purity tests? I feel that is the biggest barrier for more sane candidates running. I totally agree. And the way that you do it is you wind up with a candidate who is able, like a Barack Obama, who through sort of charisma and how he's positioned and stuff, it winds up being able to tell some hard truths to the base about things. Like, here's one small example. Democrats are very big, or at least were very big, into campaign finance reform. Barack Obama, in 2008 said, yes, I will definitely abide by public financing rules. I will not raise money in the general election because that's good government. And then he won the primary and he was like, wait, I can raise much more money than I would get from the public financing system. So he just did it, which is really smart. Like, because you just can't be beholden to the base at all times. But it requires a candidate, I think. It requires a person who can do that. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going back through, making sure I didn't miss people. Isaac said Tim Walz is also wanting to run for president. I mean, I guess, but like, I just don't think it's a thing. H says, any more news on Greenland or Panama? Not currently, though I will tell you, if you watch Donald Trump's speech, he said in that speech, and I think Greenland is going to come with us one way or another. I was like, are we threatening military action? Like, that's probably not super great. Anyway, Browsing says, Chris Cillizza, love the Underwood typewriter. I have a 1949 Royal myself. Yes, that is the typewriter right there. Thank you. Thanks, Browsing. Robert Patnod, sweet moment, but you didn't mention that Trump cut the funding that saved that boy. I know that's like, it's a very convoluted thing. It is not like Donald Trump cut that money, but I get your point. Michael says, umpire can still know who is a good or bad pitcher. You can watch who is throwing heat. Right. That's the thing. Like, the umpire calls balls and strikes, but it can be like, oh, okay, like that guy pitched a really good game. You know, afterward, he'd be like, yeah, he was really on. That doesn't impact your calling of balls and strikes. Kendall, hey, Chris, I think that speech was a really bad look for Democrats. Why do you think they didn't stand for the kid with cancer and Laken Riley's mom? Do they really just not care about anyone else? No. I think I think that's an overread. And I do think some of them did applaud Laken Riley's mom and sister. I think that they had decided, sort of together, we're not going to stand and applaud anything that Donald Trump does. The problem with that is, like, when he does something like that, which I think is politically and morally a good thing, you look dumb if you're not cheering it. But yeah. Alex Valissis, you're the man, Cillizza. Well, thank you. Dylan G, I will never vote for another Democrat until they drop the trans stuff. Okay. Slam Piece. Hi, Chris. My boyfriend is a big fan of you. Can you say hi, Brian? Hello, Brian. LaRoba, what should we call the alert I give when Oberman says something mean about Chris? Because, did he just say something? Oh, it was in response to Trump's address, because of course it was. Look, Keith is like a gigantic partisan. I get it. Everything that Donald Trump does is terrible and awful and the worst thing in the world, and the sky is falling and Hitler is coming and blah, 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 blah. It's okay. This is right. But, Keith is fine. Keith is Keith. More power to him. H, has your experience on YouTube been good or bad? Good. I mean, I wanted to grow faster, if I'm being totally honest. Like, the faster it grows, the better. And I think it's easier to grow if I came on here every day and said, Donald Trump is the worst. You won't believe the thing he's done next, ... Yeah, I mean, that's easier, but that's not the path I'm taking. So, I'm on a different path. Let's see. DSlav2488 says Walz Whitmer 2028. That's my ticket. Just not a Tim Walz guy. Whitmer potentially, for sure. Spencer Lieb, on Tuesday night, Trump said that he would balance the federal budget for the first time since Bill Clinton in 2001. I'm skeptical, to say the least, even with all the recent cuts. What about you? There is no way he is balancing the budget. No way. It is not going to happen. Like that, out of all the things he said, that was one of the most ridiculous. That is not happening. No way, no how. Terrence Ezrog, has Cillizza ever circled back to his bizarre take that Zelensky lost his temper in the Oval Office last week? No, I think that. I mean, you could disagree, but I think Zelensky let himself get goaded into fighting with Trump and didn't work out for him. Oh, the stream acting buggy? Hmm. All right, well, let's hope it comes back. Hold on, I'm scrolling. Just make sure I didn't miss anything. H says, good luck to your mother. Thank you. That's so kind. She's doing fine. Anton Smith, Chris, do you still teach? If so, what courses are you teaching? I don't teach right now. I taught campaign journalism in the fall and then last fall as well. I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it as much as some people do, I think. So I might teach again, but I'm not totally 100% sold on it, if that's makes sense. Let's see. Gosh, I know the stream is unstable. I don't know what the deal is with that. I guess maybe I have to have my Wi-Fi looked at. I don't understand. It's beautiful weather out, so there's no reason for it. Mark 2867. Yesterday, when speaking to Jonathan Last, you stated you loved him, and he was very clear where he stood on Trump. Yeah, I like plenty of people about. I like plenty of people who I don't agree with all the time. Plenty of people. That's fine. Like, I don't know. I think that's okay. Doesn't bother me. Let's see. Ben Pearson, does Tim Walz run with the intent to highlight a specific message or angle for a cabinet spot? I mean, maybe. Shoot. You know what, folks? I'm sorry if this is bad. I may end it here because it's really slow and I don't totally get it. I'm not sure why. I will read this last one from Mark Daniels. If two people agree on everything, at least one of them is irrelevant. I totally agree. Like, why do people need to pay for opinions that are just their opinions? It's just very strange. It doesn't make sense. Okay, I'm going to end because I don't know what's wrong. I'm going to try to have my internet looked at so that we don't have this problem again. If you can, subscribe, like, comment, tell people. All right, that's all I got. Everybody, take care. I promise I'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll have these bugs worked out.